This evening, first, new charges on multi-million-dollar bail in the deadly Demerara River Bridge crash, as the truck driver at the center of the tragedy returns to court, plus a major legal blow for Azruddin Mohamed and Nazar Mohamed. The High Court clears the way for extradition proceedings to continue. Also, 4 crew members are dead after a routine inspection aboard a cargo vessel turns fatal in Georgetown. Police probe suspected toxic fumes. Meanwhile, a sharp rebuttal from government as questions swirl over the opposition leaders' benefits and entitlements. And globally, nuclear tension rise as Russia and the United States edge closer to ending the last remaining arms control treaty. Those stories and more coming up. Stay with us. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update for February 5th, 2026. I'm Bibi Backus. Thank you for joining us. First up, a tragic collision case on one of Ghana's newest and busiest bridges has returned to the courtroom as the driver at the center of the fatal Demerara River Bridge accident faces additional charges. Those additional charges were brought against 23-year-old Jomal Kenny, the driver involved in the fatal multi-vehicle accident on the Barajagio Demerara River Bridge in January, as he was granted bail for $2.1 million. Kenny appeared before Magistrate Delombes at the Diamond Magistrates Court on Wednesday, where he was charged with causing death by dangerous driving and other related offenses. He is accused of causing the death of 24-year-old taxi driver Scott Dewart of Grove, East Bank, Demerara. Several other persons were injured in the crash. The incident occurred when the cement-laden truck Kenny was driving reportedly lost power and braked while crossing the bridge, rolling backwards onto other vehicles. An inspection later revealed a mechanical defect in the truck. Kenny, who was previously remanded on charges including driving without a license and breach of insurance, is represented by attorney Everton Singh Lamy and is scheduled to return to court on April 2nd. The truck's owner, Antonio Johnson, was also charged and granted bail. The case will now proceed through the courts as investigations continue, with the tragic incident once again highlighting concerns about road safety, vehicle maintenance, and accountability on the country's major transport routes. On a different note, U.S. indicted businessman and opposition leader Azruddin Mohamed and his father Nazar Mohamed suffered a major legal setback as Acting Chief Justice Narendra Singh dismissed one of their High Court applications aimed at blocking their extradition to the United States to face charges of fraud, money laundering, and corruption. The ruling, delivered ahead of the substantive proceedings scheduled for the Magistrates Court on February 5th and 6th, upheld the Minister of Home Affairs authority to initiate the extradition process. The Mohammeds had argued that the process was tainted by presumed political bias, but the court sided with Attorney General Anil Nandlal, who described the claim as absurd and emphasized that extradition is a statutory process that political arguments cannot derail. The duo was ordered to pay $500,000 in costs to each of the 3 respondents, including the Attorney General, Home Affairs Minister Onij Walron, and Magistrate Judy Lachman, who is presiding over the ongoing extradition hearings. Extradition proceedings continue today at the Georgetown Magistrates Court after the defense sought an adjournment, citing Mohamed's parliamentary duties and health concerns. Magistrate Lachman denied the request, emphasizing the need for expedition and directing that the proceedings continue. The extradition request follows U.S. indictment against the father and son duo for large-scale corruption, gold smuggling, and money laundering, including avoiding over US $50 million in taxes. If convicted, the charges carry prison terms of up to 20 years and fines ranging from $250,000 to $500,000. A separate High Court challenge to the Fugitive Offenders Act remains pending, with a ruling expected on February 16th. In other news, a typical inspection aboard a docked cargo vessel ended in tragedy Wednesday evening as 4 crew members collapsed and later died under circumstances now being examined by police. The authorities are investigating the deaths of 4 crew members following an incident aboard a cargo vessel docked at a wharf on Water Street, Cummins-Burg, Georgetown on Wednesday evening. The incident occurred around 6:30 p.m. while the men were reportedly inspecting a dry space in the lower section of the vessel's engine room. The deceased have been identified as 18-year-old seaman Brandon Demerara of Support East Bank, Demerara, boat captain 57-year-old Noreen Prasad of Cummins Lodge, East Coast, Demerara, seaman 33-year-old Dominic Alexis of the Kendron West Coast, Demerara, and 25-year-old engineer Jetendra Sanchara of Cummins Lodge. Preliminary investigation suggests they were exposed to suspected poisonous fumes in the vessel's engine room and collapsed. Demerara and Prasad reportedly entered first and collapsed. Alexis later entered to render assistance but also collapsed, followed by Sanchara, who similarly went in to help and fell unconscious. An alarm was raised by other crew members, prompting a response from emergency medical technicians and the Guyana Fire Service. The men were transported to the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation, where they were pronounced dead on arrival. Their bodies are at the hospital's mortuary awaiting post-mortem examination. Police said investigations are ongoing. Stick around when we return. Kashira clarifies opposition leaders' entitlements, rejects claims of persecution, and police probe discovery of suspected MDMA at Essequibo Coast Secondary School.
Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Common Smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services. 316 Mill Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road, Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Gail Teixeira, has dismissed claims by opposition leader Azruddin Mohamed regarding his benefits as a constitutional office holder, saying he is being misinformed or misleading the public. Speaking on the sidelines of the National Budget 2026 debate on Wednesday, Minister Teixeira explained that the benefits afforded to former presidents do not apply to a sitting leader of the opposition. She noted that under the Former President's Benefits and Other Facilities Act, only former presidents are entitled to full-time personal security and services of the Presidential Guard Service.
Mr. Azruddin is not a former president and therefore is not entitled to the things that a former president would be entitled to. The act which covers leader opposition is the leader of opposition benefits, which include the fact that he will receive the same as a minister. So Mr. Mohamed will receive and has received the salary, benefits, allowances, and entitlements of ministers. That includes security at his home. And so that is paid for by Parliament. He's not entitled to personal security. However, there is security at the office of the leader opposition whenever he designates the office and based on the rental threshold that has been set by Parliament. So this issue that he's entitled to these benefits that he sees former presidents being able to access do not apply to the leader opposition and therefore do not apply to Mr. Mohamed.
Minister Teixeira said Mohamed is entitled only to the salary, allowances, and benefits of a minister, including security at his residence, which is paid for by Parliament. However, she stressed he is not entitled to personal security, duty-free vehicles, or assigned close protection officers.
As a leading opposition, he's not entitled to duty-free concession. As a parliamentarian, as all 71 parliamentarians in the House are entitled to duty-free concession. So he doesn't have any special dispensation to do with duty-free. He has a duty-free concession based on being a parliamentarian. He has no entitlement to a vehicle assigned to him, no entitlement to close men. If he wishes to have that, he can hire them himself.
The minister urged Mohamed to familiarize himself with the law before aligning political persecution. She also disclosed that the opposition leader is receiving his salary in cash. Moving on, the discovery of suspected illicit drugs inside a secondary school has raised a serious alarm, underscoring growing concerns about students' safety and the infiltration of narcotics into learning environments. Police in Regional Division 2 are investigating the discovery of a quantity of suspected MDMA at a secondary school on the Essequibo Coast on Wednesday. The discovery was made around 10:30 a.m. after school authorities alerted the police. Upon arrival, ranks were handed several small transparent Ziploc bags containing a substance suspected to be methylendoxymethamphetamine, commonly known as Molly. The items were reportedly found in the possession of 2 students and inside a classroom. The suspected narcotics were seized, weighed, and amounted to 5.82 grams before being lodged as evidence. 2 juveniles aged 14 and 15 were escorted to the police station in the presence of school officials, their parents, and the welfare officer. A 20-year-old male was later arrested in connection with the matter and remains in police custody. Drugs such as MDMA can have severe and lasting effects on young people, including impaired brain development, mental health disorders, addiction, and increased risk-taking behavior, making early intervention and strong safeguards within schools critical to protecting students' well-being, and future investigation into the incident are ongoing. Don't go away after the break. Washington Critical Minerals Summit. U.S. wants to reduce China's grip on global market. And Epstein files fallout. UK PM Strammer criticized for ambassador appointment.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, lot 238 South Road border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lenders, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
See clearly with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Common smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services, 316 Middle Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world.
Good evening, I'm Dominic Gittins. Tonight, the UN warns Cuba could face a humanitarian collapse as fuel shortages deepen under US pressure. The US and Russia edge closer to letting a key nuclear treaty expire. Dozens of countries move to secure critical minerals, and Britain's Prime Minister faces questions over a top diplomatic appointment. We begin in Cuba. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned that Cuba faces a potential humanitarian collapse as severe fuel shortages worsen following U.S. efforts to block oil supplies and threaten tariffs on assisting countries. Prolonged blackouts, rising food and transportation costs have intensified hardships. The UN urged dialogue and respect for international law, while Mexico seeks diplomatic solution to continue limited oil and humanitarian assistance. Russia and the United States look set to let New START lapse, ending the last cap on their nuclear arsenals, with Moscow offering a one-year extension if Washington reciprocates. Donald Trump seeks a more profitable deal, but Dmitry Medvedev says Ukraine-related tensions and disagreements makes a new agreement unlikely. Al Jazeera Yulia Shapovalova reports.
Russia and the US are on the verge of withdrawing from the New START treaty, the last active agreement limiting their nuclear arsenal. In September last year, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that Moscow was ready to adhere to the current restrictions for another year after the expiration of the New START treaty this week, but only if the US took a similar step. US President Donald Trump reacted by saying he would be able to secure what he called a more profitable agreement, while Russia's ex-president Dmitry Medvedev, who signed the New START treaty alongside Barack Obama back in 2010, says tensions over the war in Ukraine and fundamental disagreements with Washington on arms control make a new agreement unlikely.
Our proposal remains on the table, and the treaty hasn't even expired yet. If the American side wants to extend it, that can be done.
In addition to the likely expiration of this treaty, the US president has announced the resumption of nuclear testing after a more than 30-year break. In response, Vladimir Putin ordered a study to be conducted by Russia on the importance of such tests. Many agree a nuclear threat is looming and a fundamentally new arms control mechanism is needed, not least to prevent other countries from becoming nuclear powers.
The risk of a nuclear attack is now the highest in decades. Experts say the New START treaty between Russia and the United States in its current form no longer addresses that challenge. They say any new potential agreement should involve the entire so-called nuclear 5 countries, including the United Kingdom and France, as well as China.
Moscow has repeatedly emphasized the need to consider NATO's combined nuclear potential.
Great Britain and France are the allies of the United States, bound by obligations and mutual commitments within NATO. Therefore, it is impossible to ignore their arsenal. China doesn't possess the same arsenal as Russia and the US do. So at this stage, it sees no need to participate in such negotiations.
Russia and the United States' nuclear arsenal accounting for more than 90% of all nuclear weapons in the world. As of January 2025, Russia had 4,309 nuclear warheads, the United States 3,700. France and the UK have their own nuclear arsenal, 290 and 225 warheads respectively, according to the Stockholm Peace Research Institute, and China has about 600 warheads. Even though the remaining members of the Nuclear Five appear in no hurry to join the negotiations, the most likely option for the future Strategic Arms Control Treaty may be data sharing with fewer stringent restrictions. Yulia Shapovalova, Al Jazeera, Moscow.
55 countries across 6 continents will build a global supply chain network to secure critical minerals for cars, smartphones, power grids, and defense, aiming to curb China's dominance. Al Jazeera's Rosalind Jordan reports.
55 countries, 6 continents, committed to protecting a key element of their economies: critical minerals used in everything from cars and smartphones to military equipment and power grids. By forming their own global supply chain network, these countries hope to erode China's domination of the market.
Right now, you have 90-something% of some of these elements controlled by one nation in one place. And that's just not healthy for the global economy, and it's certainly not healthy for security and stability.
China's domination is twofold. Not only does it have a robust domestic mining and processing industry, but it's used its Belt and Road Initiative to get guaranteed access to critical minerals in dozens of countries. What's more, if another country offends Beijing, it has no problem cutting off critical mineral sales. See last year's refusal to sell military equipment to Japan because of its views on Taiwan. That led Tokyo to sign a cooperation deal with Washington, and its foreign minister is urging others to do the same.
We should work together to address this challenge. To prevent such supply chain disruptions,
the U.S.'s proposal includes mutual access to raw and processed materials, a minimum price for all elements on the global market, and financial support for countries trying to develop their industries. It's worth asking if the U.S.'s catch-up strategy will be enough to counter China, which dominates the critical minerals market. It controls 70% of raw materials, 90% of processed goods. And China has created a vast supply chain which guarantees its access to resources in Africa, Latin America, and Asia. The U.S. says that supply chain has harmed many countries.
The international market for critical minerals is failing. It's failing to create domestic markets or dignified jobs for our labor forces, and it's failing to keep our nation safe.
Beijing has called previous Western critical minerals partnerships an offense to the global economic order. But its recent decision to restrict magnet exports has alarmed Western manufacturers who rely on them, giving the U.S. all the more reason to build this latest coalition. Rosalind Jordan, Al Jazeera, Washington.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer faces scrutiny over appointing Peter Mandelson as ambassador to the United States, amid focus on Mandelson's links to the late Jeffrey Epstein. Al Jazeera Melina Veselinovic reports.
Thank you very much indeed.
Peter Mandelson was once entrusted to strengthen relations with the UK's most powerful ally. Now his links to another once powerful man, the late convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, are sending shockwaves through the British establishment. UK lawmakers want to know how much the man who appointed Mandelson as the UK ambassador to the US knew about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Mandelson betrayed our country, our parliament, and my party. Mr. Speaker, he lied repeatedly to my team when asked about his relationship with Epstein before and during his tenure as ambassador. I regret appointing him. If I knew then what I know now, he would never have been anywhere near government.
A forceful condemnation, but critics say Starmer was not blind to the risks.
After being questioned repeatedly by the leader of the opposition in Parliament, Keir Starmer did admit that during Peter Mandelson's vetting process for the job of the ambassador to the US, he did know that Mandelson and Epstein had kept in touch even after Epstein's conviction, and that for many raises serious questions about the UK Prime Minister's judgment.
Mr. Speaker, I asked the Prime Minister if...
Under pressure from both the opposition and his own Labour MPs, Keir Starmer has agreed to release documents detailing how Mandelson was vetted for the Washington job. But it has done little to quell the anger of some lawmakers who say Mandelson, who was twice fired from previous governments over unrelated scandals, should never have been appointed to a top diplomatic role. He is now under criminal investigation for allegedly passing market-sensitive information to Jeffrey Epstein while serving as a business secretary in the wake of the global financial crash. But as scrutiny of him intensifies, it is Keir Starmer and his decision-making that are firmly under spotlight. Milena Veselinovic, Al Jazeera, London.
Thanks, Dominique. This brings us to the end of our regional and global news coverage. Up next is the 3-minute forecast. And that's it, the weekly headline news for this Thursday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. You can tune in tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. for rebroadcast and at 7 p.m. for more news. Until then, please take care of yourselves and each other.